In the Micro Forte studio in Glebe, Australia, 30 blokes sit at their computers drinking Coke and twiddling with the glorious, computer-generated landscapes splashed across their screens. Carrying enormous headphones, the computer game designers look like scruffy koalas intent on their work. The only sounds that emanate from this strange colony are mouse clicks and keyboard taps and the low, steady hum of machines. On certain Fridays at 3:30 p.m., however, when the company is creating a game, the scene changes. That's when the floor becomes animated by the sound of 30 brainiacs playing computer games while they drink beer and suck lollies, searching for the flaws within each other's work. If American author Nic Kelman is to be believed, the men manipulating monsters on screen are not just entertainment providers, they're artists engaged in a new art form that surpasses visual and technical abracadabra. Individual components of computer games have always had artistic value, he says. But in the last few years, the synthesis of all those parts is producing something that has some kind of deeper experience. It transcends the form. That's the thesis Kelman presents in his latest book, Video Game Art. It may sound innocuous, but Kelman's assertion that the storylines, complex characters, sound, music and breathtaking visuals in games make them valid works of art is controversial. Even among gamers, the film and computer games industries feed off each other, with Hollywood pilfering titles such as Tomb Raider, yet the games industry that took off in the 1980s remains the brattier cousin of the movie business. Predictions that the value of the games industry will surpass the film and music industries combined within a few years, increasing in revenue from $25 4 billion in 2004 to $55 billion in 2009, have barely altered the public perception that computer games are the domain of adolescents. Not only do games have their own grammar and clichés, but a handful of designers have recognizable styles. Among gamers, the names Shigeru Miyamoto and Will Wright induce the same respect that Stanley Kubrick and Robert Altman provoke in movie buffs. The New Yorker described the Japanese designer Miyamoto, who created classic games such as Donkey Kong and The Legend of Zelda, as the D.W. Griffith of game design. Just as Griffith pioneered narrative filmmaking in the early 20th century with cinematic devices such as the flashback and cross-cutting, Miyamoto developed many of the techniques now central to games, such as immersive, coherent worlds and shifting point of view. His work is recognizable for its childlike, joyous style. Even so, late last year, the influential film critic Roger Ebert, of the Chicago Sun-Times, banished computer games from his canon of art forms. I am prepared to believe that video games can be elegant, subtle, sophisticated, challenging and visually wonderful, Ebert wrote on his website in response to a reader. But I believe the nature of the medium prevents it from moving beyond craftsmanship to the stature of art. To my knowledge, no one in or out of the field has ever been able to cite a game worthy of comparison with the great dramatists, poets, filmmakers, novelists and composers. Gamers everywhere posted feverish blog replies condemning Ebert and asking him to explain himself. Admitting that he rarely plays the games, he says, there's a structural reason for that. Computer games by their nature require player choices, which is the opposite of the strategy of serious film and literature, which requires authorial control. The founder of Micro Forte, John DeMargheriti, doesn't agree. The author of the game has written some grand plotline, has created the races, the pretext of the stories, he says. He's constrained you in a series of quests you must do, missions you must complete, objects you have to collect. In DeMargheriti's mind, the designer plays God just like the director of a film, but in a slippery, multifaceted universe instead of a static one. In support of his argument, DeMargheriti draws parallels between art forms. Great games are as engrossing as great novels or films, and players finishing a game can feel as sad as a reader when they put down such a novel. A great artwork, be it sculpture, film or game, is immersive. The art form of games is simply a different art form, DeMargheriti says. Art forms have different functions. Some architecture may not be considered art. A 3-bedroom red brick house in the suburbs isn't art, but the Sydney Opera House is. Most computer games are the 3-bedroom house, but others are the opera house. Some who work within the games industry, however, agree with Ebert. Steve Starmatiadis, creative director and co-founder of Brisbane studio Chrome, which made the Tasmanian Tiger game for children, says, games can potentially deliver the same stuff as art. Changing the way you think about something, but I don't think games are at that stage when about 90% are about people running around shooting at something. But, let's face it, what are the majority of films about? Whatever the realities of the marketplace, maybe Miyamoto and others have already left the suburbs. Some who work within the games industry, however, agree with Ebert. Steve Starmatiadis, creative director and co-founder of Brisbane studio Chrome, which made the Tasmanian Tiger game for children, says, "Games can potentially deliver the same stuff as art. Changing the way you think about something, but I don't think games are at that stage when about 90% are about people running around shooting at something. But, let's face it, what are the majority of films about? Whatever the realities of th.